You're probably wondering, Amanda, why? How is it at number 9? Listen, it made my top 10. Don't yell at me. Don't yell at me, okay? Hey everyone, welcome back to Candid Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX Indie Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be going through my top 10 films of 2023 with some honorable mentions, and I didn't review some of them for you guys on the channel because the ones that have come out in December, majority of them are in my top 10, so I figure let me just throw it all together, give you guys little mini reviews while I go through my top 10. The only film that I haven't seen yet that could have possibly landed in my top 10, I can't really say that it would have or wouldn't have, but it's a possibility, is The Color Purple. It's the only one that I've missed, unfortunately, but I'm going to go through some other ones through my letterbox that I have. I made a list that consists of 4 out of 5 stars and then 4.5 and then 5 stars, obviously being in my top 10 list. So we're just going to go through it here, and I'm going to bring in my little PowerPoint presentation. And just let me know, guys, in the comments below how you feel about my list, if you would have maybe not added some films in there. I know that some of them are controversial on Twitter right now, so I'm just going to go through it and we can talk about the controversy heading into Oscar season, all right? So at number 10, this is it here, because, and I'll tell you why. I had watched a movie called Hitman at TIFF, directed by Richard Linklater, and it's not coming out anytime soon. Netflix, they're the distributor. We don't know when Hitman's coming out with Glenn Powell and Audrey Arjona. And I loved Hitman. So Hitman's technically in my 10th spot, but it's really not out yet for everyone to see. So it's very unfair. Okay, but I am going to let you guys know that you need to watch Hitman, directed by Richard Linklater. When it does come out, go to the theater. We're pushing Netflix for that theatrical release because it is just so good. And you thought Glenn Powell was great in Anyone But You. He is 10 times better in this movie in Hitman. So that was technically my number 10 spot. But you guys know how much I love my Mission Impossible franchise. I did the entire watch through for you guys, a little in-depth review there for each of them. And I really, really enjoyed Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. A lot of people didn't like the whole AI storyline. I dug it, and I think because Ethan Hunt has been on the run for so long, he's been an MI agent for an eternity, he's gone rogue, someone who is that old school with a particular skill set that only functions as traditional MI work, and he's had to adapt through technology throughout the years. Dealing with AI in this film is really important, considering everything that's happened in Hollywood in regards to AI as well, and ChatGPT with the writer's strike and the actor's strike. They're really fighting for that. So to have a film like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning really work in how horrifying AI can be through the entity, I thought that was really interesting, and it did speak to the current climate. I love the action set pieces in this. It does run a bit long, don't get me wrong, but the reason why I have MI7 up here is because the ending, even though it is kind of a cliffhanger, it feels like an ending. So even though I'm dying to watch part 2, it did feel like a closed off ending. So that's why I can say that it can make my top 10 list as one of the best action films of the year. I loved it. I think the entire cast was great. Haley Atwell really shined, and I did give Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 a 4.5 out of 5. I thought everything was great. Vanessa Kirby was wonderful, and I just love the friendship between Luther and Benji and Ethan. It just continues to get stronger, and I just adore them, and I love that that is the heart of this film. It's the friendship between them, and we will get Ilsa Faust back because that was just so unnecessary. It was so unnecessary. I'm in that camp. I was really pissed off, but that's besides the point. But yes, if you enjoyed Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, let me know in the comments below. Next, we have Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by my king, Martin Scorsese. You're probably wondering, Amanda, why? How is it at number 9? Listen, it made my top 10. Don't yell at me. Don't yell at me, okay? The thing with Killers of the Flower Moon is that it's extremely difficult to watch. It's very hard to watch. Everyone gives great performances. The more I thought about Killers of the Flower Moon, the more I felt that Molly Burkhart was underused and there should have been more focused on her storyline because this movie is 3.5 hours. I do think that structurally, the film is brilliant. I think it's one of the best adaptations of the year from David Grant's book. And I do like that they focused on the atrocity that happened and the fact that this has just become a story. The trauma is there, the generational trauma is there, and no one cares to fix the broken system. And that's what Scorsese did do here in Killers of the Flower Moon. And I think that it's a very important film. It's one of the most important films of the year. And I really do think that it's one of the most powerful endings. I really loved this ending because it broke me to pieces. It really broke my heart, this ending. And I think that Leonardo DiCaprio is always great. Robert De Niro is always great. You haven't seen either of them like this. And I think De Niro was exceptional in this film. I know that there's awards buzz for all of them, and I can see that happening. I'm going to watch it again eventually when I have 3.5 hours to sit and watch this because I do want to see it, and it's going to be streaming on Apple TV Plus very soon. But yes, this was a 4.5 out of 5 for me. It did run a bit long. And again, I do think that Molly's story deserved to be fleshed out a bit more and have her the focus. Obviously, Ernest is one of the most unlikable characters ever, but I do think that the build up to those final moments with Molly and Ernest, especially with the trial, I thought that was really well done and executed. Thelma Schoonmaker is world-class editor, and I did put this in my top 10. It's not in my top 5, and that's okay. A lot of great films came out this year, and it's the truth. So next I have Maestro, directed by Bradley Cooper. I know what you're thinking. You put Bradley Cooper above Martin Scorsese. That's okay. It's okay. Don't hate me for it. Listen, the hate that Maestro is getting online is absolutely mind-boggling to me. It is not the worst film of the year. Okay, I don't know what you guys are watching or why you didn't even appreciate Leonard Bernstein's story. I have no idea, but I really enjoyed this. And I think that Cooper, taking on this role for 6 years, the direction for this man's story is just so unique to his lifestyle, I think. And I loved, and I wrote this in my review, is that you have Leonard Bernstein, who has gone through so much in his life, and he wanted to be a composer and he wanted to be the ultimate conductor. There are two sides of him. And what Bradley Cooper touches upon in here is that you have multiple things happening inside you, multiple versions of yourself inside of you, and then you tap into certain areas. And that's what he does in Maestro. So you have Leonard Bernstein's bisexuality, which is touched upon here as well, and it is explored, but it's also explored in the two different avenues of him being a composer and then him being a conductor. So being a conductor, it's a different lifestyle. You have to be very reserved and you have to act a certain way in high society, and it's just a bit more strict. Okay. And then you have a composer in him where he did On the Town and he worked on West Side Story. Like, it's just a very different side. There's more freedom with Broadway. There's more fun aspects of Broadway. So I think that when Bradley Cooper brought in the theatrics for Leonard Bernstein, that's when my heart soared, and that's where it connected for me with Maestro. And I really loved Matthew Libatique's cinematography. It was brilliant. I thought it was fantastic work all around. I think Carey Mulligan was astounding in this film. And I'm going a bit more in depth with Maestro because obviously I didn't give you guys a full review for it, and I do think Carey Mulligan has one of the best performances of the year. I think Bradley Cooper has one of the best performances of the year. If you thought that it was terrible, that's fine. Don't say that I'm wrong if I think it's a great performance, one of the best of the year. Don't say that I'm wrong, because it's subjective. I think he did extraordinary work. That one long take, he was a man possessed. He was a man possessed, okay? You could feel him as this character. B. Coops was gone. He was gone. And to the people saying, oh, you could see that he's trying to act, that's his job. No one's overdoing it. He didn't overdo it. You're just saying it because it's Bradley Cooper and he actually tries to do his best. And it comes out in such a beautiful, thoughtful performance like this. And that bleeds into his direction as well. So I don't want to hear any of this like it's the worst thing that's ever made. It's not. It's really not. And to the people that have expectations for these awards films, they're movies at the end of the day. And to quote Martin Scorsese, you don't make pictures for Oscars. I know that everyone's like, oh, but he's really fighting for that Oscar. He's this, he's that. Why is that wrong? Why is that wrong? He wanted to make this film. Okay, you can call it Oscar bait all you want, but it doesn't feel like it's Oscar bait because he really connected with Leonard Bernstein and his story. And you could see that there's so much heart in every single frame here. So either the people that are trashing it haven't watched it, or you just want to start dragging B. Coops this award season because we need a villain every year, apparently. So I gave Maestro a 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. Next, I have number 7. I have Past Lives, directed by Celine Song. Beautiful, just beautiful. Everything about this was beautiful. I saw this very late, and I'm so upset that I saw this very late. So I'm jumping on this bandwagon because it is just such a beautiful story. To think what could have been, to think about how your life could have ended up if you made certain decisions, and just how love can be interpreted in different ways, and how you don't know if the love that you have is the right one. And that's really, really difficult to think about. It's heartbreaking to think about. So when you have someone from your past come back and you're in a very different mindset, you're in a different lifestyle, and they come back, they kind of pull you into your former self. And it's someone that you used to be, and it's not who you are right now. And then you start thinking, and that's exactly what Celine Song did here. I thought the ending was beautiful. I haven't cried that much in a romance drama in a very long time. It's just beautifully structured. The bar scene here in between the three of them, her husband and then her childhood friend, who they had feelings for each other. They're speaking in their language and the husband doesn't quite understand, but it's like they're in their own little bubble. And I love that at the beginning of this, that's what they open with, is this bar scene. It's like, well, what's their story from across the bar? You see the three of them sitting there, and then everything happens between them. And then you bookend it with them sitting at the bar, and you realize how devastating this story is because they can never have that love. They can never go through it because she moved. She moved and he stayed there. And then that's the way life is. You don't know where love is going to take you. You don't know where your life is going to take you, but you better damn well fight for the love and the life that you want. And you have to understand that sometimes you may love a person, but that doesn't mean that you have to stay with them or be with them. And Celine Song just goes through all of this. I think it's just one of the most beautiful movies of the year. It's beautifully made, and I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I loved Past Lives. I thought that was just a beautiful film. So thank you, Celine Song, for this one. Next, I have Poor Things, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Wow. Wow. Listen, if you are not a Lanthimos fan, if you haven't been here since, I think my first film was Killing of a Sacred Deer, you're going to go into Poor Things like, what in God's name did I just sit through? If you don't know his style of directing. I watched Killing of a Sacred Deer. I watched The Lobster, The Favorite. If you've watched all of those, you know Yorgos Lanthimos. And now, in this film, the story's brilliant. to begin with. It's about female liberation. It's about female sexuality and discovering their sexuality. It's about women feeling free enough to ask questions in the society and just have their own agency and learn and be educated and just absorb everything, but also see that being a woman is just so freaking hard. I love that Yorgos explored this with Emma Stone. I personally do not think anyone else could have played Bella Baxter. Brilliant work from her. The physicality from starting as a newborn baby in a grown woman's body was astounding. The physical acting that came in here was on another level. She could play with so much. She was very playful. And the more she grew, the more her brain grew, because it's a baby's brain in a woman's body. She had to relearn how to be a woman. And I thought that was absolutely genius. One of the best films of the year. I was blown away. I loved Mark Ruffalo in this. I think it's one of his best performances ever, and I'm loving that he's getting the recognition. He was fantastic in this. And what I love the most in this film, he used spheres quite a bit, circles, and the more Bella learned, even though she was in like this little cocoon of what her doctor, her father basically, who's played by Willem Dafoe, did was keep her locked up, because obviously she's not technically human. It's like a Frankenstein complex of a story. And the more spears that you see, she's trapped in there in a different mindset. So the more she learns, those spears like pop. Every time you did see a fisheye lens, she was locked in like a certain idea, and then it would pop again when she learned something new. So I thought that was really interesting to just kind of bookmark Bella's, timeline in this film. So I thought that was really phenomenal. The cinematography, the production design. Poor Things, one of the most well-made films of the year, most well-rounded. I do have to say I did give it a 4.5 out of 5, just because it did run a bit long and you could feel it dragging. However, I just loved everything about it. I love the twist ending. I thought that was incredible. It was incredible. I haven't laughed that hard in a movie all year, but leave it up to Lanthimos for doing incredible things like that. I love this. It's kooky, it's whimsical, it's just straight up amazing, and I love Poor Things. So please watch Poor Things. Next, I have Anatomy of a Fall, directed by Justine Triet. I heard everyone ramble about this at TIFF. I had unfortunately missed it, and I really wanted to watch this. So I went to the last showing before it was going to be pulled from theaters, and thank God I did. Thank God I did. I love procedurals. I love sitting in a courtroom. I love hearing everything, especially if it's executed well. And the whole story of this woman who may or may not have killed her husband, it was the most engaging procedural I have ever seen in my life. And that says a lot, because I watched so many of them. This was interesting from beginning to end. Sandra Hillier gives the performance of the year. It's her. If anyone's winning an Oscar, in all honesty, it should be her. She was phenomenal in this. I loved that it wasn't a linear structure when it came to the hearing. I think that it gets boring when you're just sitting there constantly. It gets dull when it's just in the courtroom. But there are moments in here where you're going through the fall. They're showing you the multiple ways that this could have happened. If the wife did push him, if he was doing something else, or someone came in and started beating him, you don't know. It's left up to the viewer to interpret if she did or if she didn't. She's on trial. There is a verdict at the end of this, but it's just the fact that the way that Sandra plays this, you still have no idea if it was true or not, or if she did it or not. And that's just incredible for a film to give you that at the end of this, because it's so incredibly detailed. Everything matters. They question her character. They question her womanhood. They question her motherhood, and obviously her being his wife. It was just so intricate that I fell in love with this. And every time it kind of started to slow down, it would pick right back up again with new evidence, with new audio recordings. And I think that one scene where they start listening to the audio that her husband had recorded without her knowledge in the courtroom, and then it just went to that specific argument between the two of them, was the most brilliant thing that they could have done there, because actually seeing the husband and wife fight gives so much more than just listening and like staring at Sandra Julier's reaction. You put them in the action, and I loved that choice. Every choice, especially with that husky, with that dog who deserves an Oscar for the performance that he gave, every single thing was shown. We were a part of the investigation. They weren't just telling us what so-and-so did or what the actual case was. They were going into great detail to show us everything, because then we, at the end, the audience, have to make up our mind to see if she is guilty or not. So I loved that. They were showing us the pieces instead of just telling us, because when you're just telling us in a courtroom, it does absolutely nothing. It does nothing. So Anatomy of a Fall is a fantastic film. It's in my top 5. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Please watch it if you have time. Next, I have The Holdovers, directed by Alexander Payne. This I didn't expect to love so much. And I'll tell you why. I hated downsizing. I love Nebraska, but I hated downsizing. So after downsizing, I'm like, I'm done. I'm never watching another film of his. This was so bad, blah, 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 blah. Then I got the tickets at TIFF. I watched this at TIFF. Thank goodness I watched this at TIFF. And I loved it. I said, this script, John Henningsen, was just so freaking well written. And it's heartwarming. It's emotional. It's just a beautiful, beautiful film. 3 people who are going through something very different in their lives, and they have to stay together in the school because obviously it's winter break. They don't have anyone to go home to. And the teacher and the lunch lady have to look after one of their students. So Dominic Sessa, Paul Giamatti, Divine Joy Randolph give stellar performances, all 3 of them. I am beyond happy that Divine Joy Randolph is getting all the love and the recognition for this role. The same thing with Paul Giamatti. I need more love for Dominic Sessa, even though he's a newcomer, I get it. It's just the fact that during the holidays, everyone's going through something different. A lot of people think about the entire year. We are reflecting on the year. That's why people get so heavy-hearted at the end of the year. And it's important to show kindness to everybody year-round, but more importantly during the holidays. You don't know what anyone is going through, and that's what The Holdovers teaches us here. It is one of the most beautiful films of the year. This is the first 5 out of 5 that I gave on my list. It's at number 4. Loved every single second of this. I laughed, I cried. It is such a sharp script. The humor is fantastic. And it does give me like Nebraska vibes because it was very dry sense of humor. But here it's intellectually. And I think Paul Giamatti delivers one of the best performances of his life. And if he wins, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to be honest, if he wins Best Actor. I just think he was absolutely brilliant in this. I love this. It is an annual holiday watch, 150%. Next, in my 3rd spot, I have Priscilla, directed by Sofia Coppola. So just to keep count, all right, I have 3 films on here that are directed by women. Woo! Killer. We love them all. Priscilla is a film that really spoke to me, and I connected with the story quite a bit. I went in depth in my review for you guys. I'm only gonna scratch the surface of it because I don't want to get into the heart to heart right now. But it really spoke to me. Her experience with Elvis really just made me remember certain things about my own past, and that's why I connected with her. I think Kaylee Spaney gave an incredible performance to be able to transform from a 14-year-old to a 21-year-old and go through the process of aging, especially at Graceland with Elvis kind of controlling her and telling her what she needs to wear, the makeup and all of that. The makeup was brilliant. The hairstyling was brilliant. It changed with her attitude and with her character and her personality while she was there with Elvis. And I think for it not to be on the short list for the Oscars is an absolute travesty. I don't understand how that's even possible because it was fantastic. I think Sofia Coppola was able to show that Priscilla became a shell of a person while she was with Elvis. And I think I understand why people are saying there was nothing to her character. And it's because, well, she wasn't. She was somebody, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she's nobody, but it's the point of like that she was empty because it wasn't who she wanted to be. It was who Elvis wanted her to be. And at the same time, it's interesting that Sofia was able to appease Priscilla and respect Priscilla while still highlighting what was so wrong about the relationship between Elvis and Priscilla. So it's a very, very intricate film. I think that there's so many layers to Priscilla that people aren't recognizing, unfortunately. I think the production design here was absolutely gorgeous. I think the costume design is brilliant in this as well. There's so many beautiful things from the 70s that I adored here. And I think that there should be more love for Priscilla. I just don't understand what happened here. I loved it. It's one of my favorite Sofia Coppola films. And I want to give a shout out to Jacob Elordi because I did not like him as Nate Jacobs, obviously. In Euphoria, I don't think anyone did. But this film changed my perspective. And I really am happy that, you know, even in Saltburn, he surprised me. I'm happy that he's breaking that mold of Nate Jacobs and he's doing other things that, you know, he's showing his chops, that he can act. And I think he was a great choice for Elvis. I really did like him as Elvis. He had the voice down pat. He has the presence. I just really loved Priscilla. I loved it. It's my number 3 spot, and it's in my heart. It's hard to watch it for me, but I really liked it. And that final needle drop, chef's kiss, just absolutely perfect. I loved it, that ending so much. So next, we have The Iron Claw, directed by Sean Durkin. I swear I'm not gonna cry. I had no idea what this movie was about. No idea. I watched one trailer. I had no clue what this thing was about. I had no idea who the Von Erichs, were. I had no idea about the wrestling, nothing. If you go into this blind, okay, this movie will rip your heart out and just throw it on the floor and stomp on it until you don't have any tears left to cry. This was devastating to sit through. But every single person in this cast delivered fantastic performances. This ensemble is my favorite of the year. The brotherhood, the loyalty, the love between those brothers just shattered my heart. I have never cried from beginning to end with a film this year as I did with The Iron Claw. It is fantastic. Zac Efron, my boy. I'm going to start crying. Oh my God. It is like, I can't even explain, to see him grow. Wow, I didn't expect to tear up like this. Whew. Sorry. To see Zac Efron grow from High School Musical to like 17 again, to that awkward moment, to, Dirty Grandpa, to, Charlie St. Cloud, to Parkland, to so many other films that he starred in alongside giants, okay? To get to this role, I am just beyond proud of him. I was obsessed with his comedic talents. I think that if you gave him a really good script, he could act the hell out of those characters. But I just loved the comedic side of him. I think he leaned into it quite well, and he was a lot of fun. And I always said, I'm like, Zac's great. Zac is such a talented actor, let alone his dance moves, Hairspray, and The Greatest Showman and High School Musical. Like, he is such a well-rounded talent that I am just beyond proud of him for transforming in this role. I think it is the best performance of the year. I adored him in this, and as you can see, it just means so much to, I really want to say, the 90s kids who have grown up with him. Like, we've looked up to him. We've grown with him. We've been there. Our butts were like in seats for neighbors to like watch him and just see him grow. We've always had such a soft spot for Zac Efron. Oh my gosh. And to watch him in this truly shine and just give such a heartbreaking performance as Kevin Von Erich, like I just was blown away. I was blown away by him. And if you have not seen The Iron Claw, please bring a box of tissues. Go watch it with your families, because it's really hard to watch this on your own. And you're going to pick up, if you have siblings, you're going to pick up that phone and call them right after. I know you will, because it's just, oh my God, it broke my heart. The last line in The Iron Claw, just everything about this was devastating from beginning to end. And the thing with Sean Durkin, like, I think his direction was brilliant. I think the structure of this was brilliant, because what happens with each brother, you do anticipate something bad happening, because they do tell you about the Von Erich curse from the beginning of the film. The father, Holt McCallany, he is the one who starts out with the wrestling, and then a very, very bad thing happens to the family, and there's this curse that carries out, and you have that in the back of your mind. Like, the seed is planted. You're like, nah, this curse doesn't exist. And then Kevin Von Erich discusses it. So I think the anticipation with each brother and something bad happening was there, because you just planted the seed. This is me not knowing anything before going into this film. So the people who do know about the Von Erichs, they still had that emotional connection to them. I've heard that they got incredibly emotional watching this. It still worked, because the way that it's delivered, the way that it's executed, is that you have those beautiful brotherly moments, but then you know something bad is about to happen. You feel it in your gut. You didn't think that a string of bad events could happen to anybody the way it was executed in this film, but oh my God, it was a lot. It was a lot. And the way that each member suffered was just devastating for the entire family. So this is one of the most perfect films of the year. In my eyes, I have never felt something just shatter me entirely. And The Iron Claw is the biggest surprise of 2023. It's number 2 for me. It's 5 out of 5. I loved this film. It's hard to watch, yes, but just to see Zac Efron completely transform in this, I'm just so proud of my boy. I really am. And I'm hoping and praying that we get some Oscar buzz for The Iron Claw, because it's just brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I loved everything about this. So kudos to you, Zach. Harris Dickinson, Jeremy Allen White, Maura Tierney, every single person in this cast. Everyone loves them. Everyone loves this ensemble. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't get nominated for SAG. And I'm hoping that Zach can sneak in there for the Oscars. I really do. Just a nomination. Honest to God, I think he deserves it. And I think he just deserves more opportunities to show his acting potential, because it's just brilliant work for him. It really is. Next and last, we have the number 1 spot. If you guys know me, this doesn't come as much of a shock here, okay? We're Oppenheimer, directed by Christopher Nolan. How can it not be? Like, let's sit here. How can it not be? This thing is brilliant. It's a phenomenal film. It's Nolan's best, okay? And I love Interstellar and The Dark Knight, okay? This is Nolan's best. It is the most polished film. I think the screenplay is fantastic. Okay, the editing, brilliant. Do you understand how incredible the editing is in Oppenheimer? To have 2 hearings, one closed and one out in the open to the public, to run simultaneously while giving flashbacks. Okay, do you know how hard that is to piece together? That is just incredible work. And to have this big climax, like towards the end of the film. It's not even like, this thing is 3 hours. You have like this climax at the end of the film. It's not even the bomb going off, because that was just a devastating thing, obviously. But even like the practice with the Trinity and having that go off, and just seeing that, oh my God, there's some form of success. And then watching that get stripped away and just absolutely turns it into such, a horrible moment in history is just mind-blowing here. Everything about Oppenheimer is brilliant. When Robert Downey Jr. at the end of this as Strauss gets booked by Rami Malek the way he did, I loved it. Alden Ehrenreich, a star in this alongside Robert Downey Jr. Okay, I loved him. Cillian Murphy, give him his flowers. As a leading man, finally in a Nolan picture, amazing for him. I love this for him. The entire cast, phenomenal. The whole thing. Cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytema, phenomenal. Going from black and white to color, 2 different hearings, fusion, fission, the score from Ludwig Göransson. I listen to it every day. Everything about Oppenheimer deserves Best Picture of the year. Oppenheimer is the best picture of 2023. I don't care what you have in your number 1 spot. It is the most well-rounded film. This is a 5 out of 5 for me. It's in the number 1 spot because of everything that I said, and I will drop my other review. They go a bit more in depth in that one as well. Everything about Oppenheimer is perfection. It is a perfect film, and I could watch it 5 million times over because you don't feel that 3 hours. Editing, perfection. All right? I loved Oppenheimer, and I hope you did too. So let me know in the comments below if you guys agree with my top 10 list. I do have other ones like Air, Blackberry, Across the Spider-Verse, The Killer, Bottoms, Creed 3, All of Us Strangers, Evil Dead Rise, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Magic Mike's Last Dance, Talk to Me, The Zone of Interest, Saltburn, Rye Lane. I have all of those on my Letterboxd list, which I'm definitely going to tag below, but I have so many other films in my top, what is it here? My top 30. It's my top 30 of the year, basically, what I just listed, but my top 10 are the ones that I showed you guys. I absolutely loved this year for movies. It was just brilliant from beginning to end, and I was just really happy with everything that came out. Everyone has different lists. I'm sorry that Barbie didn't make mine. I just wasn't really a fan of it, but I had to keep changing it, and I think that I just set with this group of 10, and I think that it sticks. I think it brings out who I am, this top 10. Very different films all over the place for me, but this is what I look for in movies, what I'm the most impressed with, what my favorites are. That's why like Iron Claw and Priscilla and The Holdovers are in my top 5. Oppenheimer's at number 1 for obvious reasons. I am a Nolan girly, and I just was fascinated with how that was brought together. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know what your top 10 are of 2023 in the comments below. If you disagree with some of my reviews, that's okay. I want to know why in the comments below. Please drop that. And if you guys want to follow me into 2024, you can find me over at AMX Indie Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. And if you guys want to help me grow this wonderful channel, you can find a ways to do that in the bio below. I'll catch you guys next time. Happy New Year, and keep watching movies.